Okay, so I just got introduced to this new franchise, and I want to see what this franchise is all about. Oh, here's some new fans. Oh my god! It's a toxic fan! Help! Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog and welcome to another general discussion series. So today's general discussion is going to be on the problems with toxic fan bases. And before I get into this, here are a few words from the channel. Alright everybody, it's time to get on the social media train. Want to chat with me in 100 words or less? Then check out my Twitter account. Want to talk about movies, TV shows, and video games within the group? Then check out my Facebook account. Want to check out some of my ultra cool fan art? Then check out my DeviantArt page. Want to get the lowdown on everything that's happening on this channel? Then check all of the above. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. So not too long ago, I actually did a video called Should Fans Have a Say in How Movies and TV Shows Should Go? And it's basically me talking about the pros and cons of having the fandom get involved in how a movie or TV series goes. And I actually really enjoyed working on that video. So if you guys want to check out that video, it's up there in the cards. But anyway, this is more like a follow-up video, and in this video I'll be talking more about the negative side of the fandoms getting involved in the movies and TV shows in the form of toxic fan bases. Now before we get into this, it's probably best to talk about what is a toxic fan base. So a toxic fan base is basically a group of fans who showcase negative behaviors like bullying or being rude or threatening people online or even in real life. So now that I talked about what a toxic fan base is, let's talk about what causes a toxic fan base. So the first thing that causes a toxic fan base is disagreements. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with having disagreements with other fans about how a franchise should go. Like, not everybody's going to have the same opinions about everything. And you can even get some really good conversations from fans who have different opinions from you. And you could have a different point of view about how the franchise should go based on your interactions with said fan. But then there are some cases where the fans start fighting each other because they can't agree on how the franchise should go, and that could cause problems for the entire fan base as a whole. Like, for example, say you were watching a romance film and it featured all of these couples in the film, and so you got a love triangle between these three people who are Sarah, Jason, and Kira. So one side of the fan base would be like, oh, Sarah should get with Jason. But then the other half of the fan base is like, no, Sarah should get with Kira. And then because you have this one half of the fan base that's all for Jason and Sarah, but then you got the other half of the fan base who's for Sarah and Kira, then you have a big fight on your hands and you have two different groups of people who want this couple to end up with that couple. And of course, it leads to a lot of disagreements within the fandom. And that's where some of the toxic behavior can come from, where the fans disagree with each other and then they start insulting each other because they can't agree on what direction this franchise should go in. Another cause of toxic fan bases would be a mishandling of the franchise. Now, there are a couple franchises out there that get mishandled by the companies, and there are times where the fans themselves get very frustrated with how the companies are mishandling the franchises, and I honestly sympathize with the fans who feel frustrated whenever their favorite franchises are being mishandled, especially when said franchise was doing well in the past and suddenly they're being mishandled out of nowhere. But then you have some fans who start getting insulting towards the company, like they start calling the company names or they start putting out death threats against this company because of how the company was mishandling the franchise, and that could cause a lot of problems for said franchise. Like, it might cause the company to kind of disregard the franchise or not really put their best efforts into this franchise because they're either scared of the fandom or they're just frustrated with the fandom as a whole and they just don't want to put in the effort to make it better. So there are some cases where some fans are being so ruthless or being so aggressive towards the company because they're mishandling the franchise that it could cause more problems than it could actually help. Another thing that could cause toxic fandoms is the popularity of the franchise. So say that you have this franchise that's internationally well known and there's a lot of fans around the world, and even though it's good that this franchise has a lot of fans, it could also invite in more toxic fans because once again you're going to have a lot of disagreements upon the fans about how this franchise should go, especially when you have a lot of fans from different parts of the world also getting into the fandom and having their own points of view about the franchise. franchise, there's going to be a lot of infighting among the fans about how this franchise should go, and therefore, because of the popularity of the franchise, the toxicity of the fan base can get more noticeable because of how big the fan base is. And then the last cause of toxic fan bases would be changes to the franchise. Now, sometimes there are some changes to the franchise that actually improves the franchise, but other times there could be some changes to the franchise that has a negative impact on the fandom, or has a negative impact on the franchise itself, and it could cause a lot of fans to be really upset about this, and they start arguing with each other, or they start laying it out to the company for making these changes in the first place. And even if there were some good changes with the franchise, you still have some of the older fans who are like, I don't like these new changes because I like the way things were before, versus the newer fans who came in when these changes were taken in effect, and they're like, oh, I like these new changes, and then they're like, I don't like how the franchise was before, let's let these new changes stay. And because of these disagreements between the changes of the franchise, you get both the new fans and the old fans arguing with each other regarding the changes to the franchise. So now that we talked about what a toxic fan base is and what causes it, let's talk about the problems that a toxic fan base can cause. So the first problem that a toxic fan base can cause is that it could cause some fans to become self-entitled to the franchise, meaning that only their opinions matter and nobody else's opinion matter. Like, for example, say that you were a fan who suggested this change for a franchise, and said change ended up helping out the franchise, but then you start getting into your head about, oh, well, since I made these changes to the franchise, only my opinions matter. It doesn't matter what the other fans say, and it doesn't matter what the big companies say. What matters is what I think, and that's all that matters. So you get some fans who are too self-entitled or think that they own the franchise, when in reality, the franchise is loved by everybody. So that can cause a lot of fans to act a bit nasty in regards to how they feel about the franchise, and to think that they have some ownership towards the franchise, despite the fact that the franchise can be enjoyed by absolutely anybody. Another problem with toxic fan bases is that they make the franchise look bad. So say that you're a newcomer to a franchise and you want to know what this franchise is all about, but then you ask a fan, what is this franchise all about and where can I get a start in it? And then said toxic fan says, oh, you're dumb for not knowing anything about the franchise. What are you even doing here in the first place? And whenever that happens, it prevents the new fans from coming into the franchise, and this could be problematic for the franchise in the future if it's one of those long-running franchises that said toxic fans being nasty towards the newcomers can prevent the franchise from getting a new audience, and therefore the franchise could stall because of that. And also, whenever you have toxic fan bases to this particular franchise, a lot of people outside the fan base are going to be thinking more about the toxic fan base rather than the franchise itself. So instead of talking about the story of the franchise and whether or not the content of the franchise is good or not, they're going to be talking more about the toxic fan base surrounding that franchise, and that's not a good look for the franchise itself, especially when they're not focusing on the story and the characters because they're too focused on the fan base itself. And then the last problem that a toxic fan base can cause is that it can be harmful to the creators and the companies involved. Like, at the end of the day, creators, writers, and even the companies themselves are people too. They have jobs like everybody else. They get stressed out like everybody else. And when they get stressed out, their work performance suffers because of it. And so when you have a lot of fans who are harassing the creators and the writers, or they're sending out death threats to the creators or the writers, or they're just being downright rude to the creators and writers, then that could cause a problem for the creators and the companies themselves, and it could cause the franchise to go downhill if the creators and the writers are stressing out about what the fandom is thinking about. Now, in some cases, some creators and writers are able to go through this because they're used to being stressed out and everything like that. But in some cases where the creators do get stressed out and it affects them, again, it could affect their work performance, and it could affect the way the franchise is going because the fans were harassing them for a lot of things that weren't entirely their fault. So now that we know more about toxic fan bases and the problems that come with it, what could be fixed about this? Well, for one thing, I think it's very important for fans to be more civil towards each other. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having different opinions from other fans, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being critical of the franchise or having concerns about the future of a franchise. But fans can be more civil about the whole situation and just make videos like this where they can talk about their concerns about the franchise and what they want to see fixed with the franchise, and do it in a way that's very respectful and civil towards the company making these franchises. Because at the end of the day, Most fans just want what's best for the franchise. It's just how they go about it that really makes the difference about whether or not a franchise can stay afloat or whether or not the franchise will have a stigma against them because of the fan base. So that's my thoughts on this video, and tell me in the comments down below, what do you guys think about toxic fan bases? Do you think they cause a lot of problems for the franchise? And have you met a toxic fan, or do you avoid them altogether? Please let me know in the comments down below. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, like this video? If you want to check out more crazy content from this channel, then please hit that big old colorful subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra generous, then please support me through Patreon so I can make more awesome content for this channel.